He's blocking public property. Arrest him immediately. I don't care if he claims this is his driveway." The HOA board member shrieked at the 3 deputies she'd called on me, standing in my own driveway, drinking coffee in my pajamas. Cordelia stood there smirking, absolutely confident she'd won this power play. What this suburban HOA dictator didn't know was that back in my home office, my engineering credentials qualified me to read every legal loophole buried in municipal code. My actual specialty is finding the exact clauses that can destroy someone's entire authority with one well-placed document. If you're watching this from your own HOA nightmare, drop your location in the comments, because this woman just made the biggest legal mistake of her life. Let me tell you how a simple parking job turned into the most satisfying legal takedown I've ever executed. 6 months ago, I bought this Indunetown home in Meadowbrook Commons, one of those gated North Carolina communities where every blade of grass is manicured, and the monthly HOA fees cost more than most people's rent. The artificial scent of fresh mulch mixed with the constant hum of sprinkler systems, keeping everything unnaturally perfect. I'm Garrett Wolfson, 44, mechanical engineer from Chicago. But here's what nobody in this suburban paradise knew. I spent 8 years as a patent attorney dissecting million-dollar contracts and finding legal loopholes that could destroy entire companies. My recent divorce, 18 brutal months of legal warfare that taught me how to weaponize documentation better than most lawyers. I moved here thinking I'd escaped courtroom drama forever. The house still carried that new paint smell of fresh starts and legal victories. Then I met my neighbor from hell, Cordelia Blackstone, 52, HOA, Architectural Review Board chairwoman and self-appointed neighborhood dictator. Picture this: platinum blonde bob that probably costs more than my car payment. Designer athleisure uniform and a leather portfolio she carries like a weapon. Lives in the premium corner lot. Drives a pearl white Lexus she treats like a throne on wheels. This woman measures fence heights with a laser level at 6 a.m., not joking. She photographs violations before most people know what day it is. The sharp chemical bite of her expensive perfume announcing her presence like a warning siren. My driveway situation, standard single car setup, 18 feet from garage to sidewalk. According to my property survey, when I park my practical Subaru after grocery runs, the rear bumper extends about 14 in into the public easement, which is exactly what public easements are designed for. Knowledge nugget. Public easements exist specifically to accommodate normal vehicle overhang. Troy covenants legally cannot override municipal parking regulations established by city planning departments. The satisfying crunch of gravel under my boots as I unloaded groceries thinking I'd found paradise. 5 minutes later, Cordelia appears like a suburban vulture. "That vehicle violates our community aesthetic standards," she announces without introduction. "It's my driveway," I reply calmly, my legal training kicking in. Property lines are clearly marked. Section 14.7 requires complete containment within designated areas. Here's where my contract expertise lit up like Christmas morning. She's citing a covenant section that doesn't exist. I'd read every page of our HOA documents during closing, but instead of calling her out immediately, I decided to let her hang herself with her own rope. This woman actually pulls out her phone and calls the sheriff standing on my property, reporting me for parking at my own house. I need deputies immediately for a neighbor refusing to comply with residential regulations and blocking public right-of-way. The static crackle of dispatch confirming 3 units en route to my emergency. 20 minutes later, 3 sheriff's deputies arrive looking confused about what crime they're investigating. Sergeant Rodriguez examines my property survey, checks municipal codes on his tablet, measures the easement himself. His verdict? No violation of any parking ordinance, ma'am. Public easements are designed for this exact purpose. Cordelia's face turns an interesting shade of purple as her authority crumbles in front of witnesses. But then she makes the mistake that would destroy her. Leaning close as officers leave, she whispers, "This is exactly what I warned the board about when they started accepting applications from people like you, people like me." The metallic taste of pure rage mixed with something else, opportunity. See, when someone shows you their true character, believe them. And when they do it while discriminating based on assumptions about your background, they've just handed you enough ammunition to level their entire kingdom. That night, I opened my laptop and started what would become the most thorough legal investigation of my career. Cordelia thought she was dealing with some regular suburban guy who'd fold under prez. Sure, she had no idea she just declared war on someone who destroys people like her professionally. Time to remind this neighborhood dictator what happens when you mess with someone who reads municipal code for fun. Cordelia's first mistake was thinking paperwork would intimidate someone who'd spent 8 years analyzing million-dollar contracts. Her second mistake was moving this fast. I'm enjoying my morning coffee when certified mail arrives. 18 pages of formal HOA violation citations, parking position, grass allegedly 0, 2 in overregulation, mailbox flag at improper angle, trash cans visible 37 minutes past pickup time. This woman had been photographing my property like she was documenting a crime scene. But here's where my legal training started tingling. She's citing HOA covenant sections that simply don't exist. Section 14.7. There is no Section 14.7 in our documents. Then I noticed something that makes my patent attorney brain light up like Christmas morning. Professional aerial drone photography attached as evidence. Crystal clear shots taken from directly above my property without any permission whatsoever. Back in Chicago, I'd seen million-dollar lawsuits built on exactly this kind of privacy violation. Drone surveillance over private residential property without consent. That's not just inadmissible evidence. It's a criminal violation of state privacy statutes and FAA airspace regulations. The metallic taste of legal opportunity mixing with my Colombian roast. 6 hours later, I filed a municipal complaint with photographic evidence of her unauthorized aerial surveillance, complete citations to North Carolina privacy protection laws, and a formal request for IMI. Diet enforcement. My divorce taught me that documentation beats emotion every single time. By 4:00 p.m., the city delivers a cease and desist order to our HOA board, demanding immediate compliance with residential airspace regulations. Cordelia's expensive spy operation permanently grounded, but this woman doubles down like a true suburban dictator. Next morning, I'm on a client video call when code enforcement knocks. Apparently, Cordelia has reported me for operating an unlicensed business and maintaining unpermitted structures. Her complaint describes my home office as a commercial operation violating residential zoning. Miguel, the inspector, seems genuinely confused. Ma'am called about unauthorized business operations. You running some kind of factory in here? I hand him my organized folder containing property survey, building permits, and zoning compliance certificates. Everything labeled and indexed because that's how engineers organize evidence. Miguel measures my shed, examines my office setup, reviews all documentation. His assessment takes exactly 15 minutes. Sir, everything's completely legal and properly permitted. This complaint appears to be, he pauses diplomatically, retaliatory in nature. False reporting to code enforcement carries municipal penalties. The smell of fresh ink from Miguel's violation notice written for Cordelia, not me. That afternoon brings Cordelia's nuclear option, an emergency architectural review board hearing. She's assembled her 2 board allies, prepared a 47-slide PowerPoint titled Maintaining Community Standards, and invited the entire neighborhood to witness what she assumes will be my public humiliation. The community center Confay. Rent's room reeks of desperation, masked by expensive air freshener. Cordelia launches into theatrical mode. We're addressing flagrant violations threatening our property values and community aesthetic integrity. Professional charts comparing my property to premium neighborhood standards. Photos of my car from 17 different angles. Precision measurements of my grass height. A timeline documenting my pattern of non-compliance. She presents a petition demanding my immediate compliance. Except my legal eye immediately spots that half these signatures look suspiciously similar. Same pen, same handwriting pressure, same letter formations. This woman forged neighborhood signatures to support her harassment campaign. When my turn comes, I stand with a single manila folder. Board members, I'd like to present the original developer covenant from 2020, specifically Section 12.3, which grants grandfathered parking rights to all existing conforming structures. I place certified copies before each member. Current restrictions were added in 2022, 2 years after my driveway was constructed, to original developer specifications. My surveyor, professional guy named Frank, who'd worked the original development, steps forward with timeline documentation. 3 other board properties have identical parking configurations to Mr. Wolfson's. The room goes silent as board members realize Cordelia never researched the legal foundation for any of her complaints. Board Chair Robert Chang shifts uncomfortably. Mrs. Blackstone, did you verify the legal basis before filing these citations? Cordelia's confident smile melts like ice cream in July. The current covenant clearly states which version, original 2020 or amended 2022. The current standards should apply to everyone, she stammers, except they legally cannot apply retroactively to pre-existing conforming structures. Vote 4-1 against Cordelia, with formal censure for frivolous harassment through administrative abuse. Board Chair warns against continued weaponization of HOA procedures. As neighbors file out, whispered conversations drift back. She's terrorized half the street. Finally, someone fought back. About time someone knew the law better than her. But Cordelia isn't finished. That evening, I watched through my window as she patrols the neighborhood with measuring tape and camera, visiting houses of everyone who'd supported me. She's escalating to psychological warfare. Perfect. Because while she's been playing neighborhood dictator, I've been thinking like a federal prosecutor building a RICO case. The sweet anticipation of legal victory mixing with evening air. This was just round 1, and I was already planning her checkmate. Cordelia's psychological warfare campaign began at exactly 6:30 a.m. with the sound of stiletto heels clicking across pavement like a suburban death march every single morning. Clipboard, measuring tape, expensive camera, the sharp chemical bite of her perfume cutting through morning air as she documented my property like a crime scene investigator building a murder case. But her real masterpiece, the leaf blower symphony. This woman had somehow obtained my work schedule and weaponized lawn maintenance against my engineering career. Client video call at 9 a.m. She'd fire up that gas-powered torture device positioned directly outside my office window. Project review at 2 p.m. More leaf blow. Same leaves, same spots. 90 minutes of dentist drill whine designed to destroy my professional credibility. The taste of rage mixed with Colombian roast became my daily breakfast ritual. Then came the citation avalanche. 31 violations in 8 days. Garden hose visible for 12 minutes past regulation time frame. Mailbox flag angled at 15-degree instead of approved 12-degree positioning. Newspaper delivered 37 seconds before authorized morning window. Each citation escalated $50, $75, $100 daily penalties, totaling $1,350 within 30 days, all on official HOA letterhead. Here's where my patent law background started screaming red alerts. She was using board stationery without authorization, document fraud that had cost executives their careers in my Chicago days. While she played harassment theater, I collected evidence with forensic precision, time-stamped photos, GPS coordinates, decibel measurements of noise violations. My divorce taught me that documentation beats emotion in every legal battle. The property line war escalated when decorative rocks appeared overnight along our boundary. Not on the boundary, ate in onto my surveyed property like she was claiming territory through landscaping imperialism. Time for direct confrontation. Cordelia, these rocks are trespassing on my property. Prove it. I've been here longer than some newcomer. The certified survey clearly shows maybe your fancy survey is wrong. She actually smirked while rewriting geography to suit her harassment fantasy. $925 later, Frank, the surveyor, documented her rocks 18 in onto my property with legal precision. I politely requested removal. She refused, so I exercised property rights and moved her rocks to the correct side of the boundary line. Her response called 911, claiming I'd stolen landscaping materials. Sergeant Rodriguez arrived looking like a man questioning his career choices. Ma'am, this is the 4th time this month. You cannot steal property from your own land. But those are my decorative rocks which you placed on his property without permission. That's trespassing, not decoration. The smell of Rodriguez's exasperation mixing with afternoon humidity as he explained basic property law to a grown woman having a rock-related meltdown. But here's where Cordelia's campaign backfired spectacularly. My neighbors started sharing their own survival stories. Romesh showed security footage of her placing rocks on my property at 5:47 a.m. Wilhelmina offered ring videos of dawn driveway measurements. Dr. Martinez documented her measuring his fence while he attended his mother's funeral. Then came her digital warfare mistake. Nextdoor post concerned about aggressive newcomer threatening community values. Anyone experiencing intimidation from recent residents unfamiliar with our standards? The community response destroyed her narrative completely. Romesh, you mean the engineer who actually read our covenant? Jennifer Thompson. Same woman who fined my kids for sidewalk chalk art. Dr. Martinez, person who called code enforcement during my family emergency. 12 neighbors publicly shared their Cordelia horror stories. Her harassment post became community therapy about surviving suburban tyranny. But the real shock came from an unexpected source. Estelle Morrison, the sweet 73-year-old widow 3 houses down, knocked on my door with disturbing information. Her grandson works at the county court. House Records Department. Garrett, honey, there's something wrong with your neighbor's finances. My Billy processed several liens against her property this year, and there's been federal inquiries about HOA account discrepancies. Federal inquiries. Those words hit like lightning. My legal instincts kicked into overdrive. Cordelia's increasingly desperate harassment, the BMW repossessions, her aggressive defense of HOA authority, it all pointed to someone protecting something valuable. That night, I opened my laptop and started the kind of investigation that had made my reputation in patent law. Public record searches, financial database queries, corporate registration lookups. What I discovered in 4 hours of research made my blood run cold. Our HOA wasn't just being mismanaged. It was being systematically looted by someone who thought harassment would keep neighbors too intimidated to ask financial questions. Cordelia hadn't just been stealing my peace and quiet. She'd been stealing from every family in our neighborhood for years. Time to show this suburban criminal what happens when you pick the wrong legal professional to terrorize. My legal instincts were screaming that Cordelia's harassment was covering something bigger. After Estelle mentioned federal inquiries, I did what patent attorneys do best. I followed the money. 4 hours into digging through public records, I discovered why this woman was so desperate to keep neighbors distracted. Our HOA wasn't just being mismanaged, it was being systematically robbed. The county clerk's office charged me $15 for 3 years of HOA financial documents, worth every penny for what I uncovered in those budget reports. Contractor, payments, and board meeting minutes. 2023 landscape maintenance, $52,000 budgeted, $31,000 documented expenses, $21,000 just gone. No accounting trail, no board oversight, no competitive bidding. Every major contract signed off by Cordelia alone. But here's where my investigative training kicked in. Same contractor won every project. Blackstone Services LLC. The metallic taste of discovery mixed with morning coffee as I ran corporate database searches. Blackstone Services registered to Devon Blackstone, Phoenix, Arizona. No North Carolina business license, no landscaping credentials, no insurance coverage, just a paper company sharing our treasurer's last name. The beautiful criminal irony became clear as I cross-referenced dates. Every time residents questioned HOA expenses, Cordelia would launch harassment campaigns. My parking persecution, Dr. Martinez's fence citations, the Thompson family's chalk art violations, all strategic diversions from systematic theft. She'd been robbing 51 families while terrorizing them into financial silence. Bank records painted the complete picture. Large HOA payments to Blackstone Services immediately followed by electronic transfers back to accounts linked to Cordelia's personal finances. Classic money laundering through family business fronts. Schemes I'd seen prosecuted at federal level during my Chicago days. Total theft calculation made me physically sick. $43,000 stolen over 24 months through fraudulent maintenance contracts. Each household unknowingly paying an extra $843 annually to fund Cordelia's family embezzlement operation. The smoking gun came through municipal transparency requirements. Email records between HOA officers A. ND outside parties. Subject: Carolina project adjustment urgent. Devon to Cordelia. Sister, that neighbor engineer asking questions. Maybe time to wrap up the Carolina gig. Her response chilled my blood. One final score, creating major sinkhole emergency, requiring $18K immediate approval. Then we disappear. They'd planned another massive theft while actively harassing me to prevent discovery. In patent litigation, we called this smoking gun evidence. Documentation so damning that defense becomes impossible. Wire fraud across state lines, mail fraud through postal invoices, criminal conspiracy between family members. The federal prosecutors I knew would fight over a case this airtight, but Cordelia was unraveling as financial pressure mounted. Her BMW disappeared for 4 days, repossession number 3 that I'd witnessed. Neighbors reported nervous chain-smoking sessions, agitated pacing during phone calls, avoiding eye contact during chance encounters, the smell of cigarette smoke replacing her usual expensive perfume as her criminal empire crumbled. Her desperation peaked with another sheriff's complaint, claiming I was stalking and documenting her activities. The irony was spectacular. She was describing her own 6-month harassment campaign against me. Sergeant Rodriguez's patience had evaporated. Ma'am, legitimate municipal complaints about documented harassment aren't stalking. They're legal self-defense. Stop calling us. Meanwhile, I coordinated with my former FBI colleague in Charlotte. Agent Sarah Haven reviewed my evidence package with the enthusiasm of someone who rarely sees cases this prosecutable. Garrett, this is textbook federal wire fraud with perfect documentation. How fast do you want to move? The timeline crystallized when Estelle's courthouse grandson provided crucial details. IRS had flagged suspicious HOA patterns 18 months ago. Cordelia's escalating harassment perfectly coincided with federal scrutiny of her financial crimes. She'd been terrorizing neighbors to prevent exactly the investigation I'd just completed. That evening brought the decision that would end Cordelia's suburban terrorism forever. I called Agent Haven with meeting coordinates. Sarah, if you want to arrest a federal criminal planning active theft, bring handcuffs to our HOA board meeting Thursday night. But first, I needed to warn the community about what they'd been unknowingly funding. 50 families deserved to know their trusted treasurer had been systematically stealing from their children's college funds and retirement savings. The taste of justice mixed with righteous anger as I prepared documentation packages. Cordelia thought harassment would keep me quiet about her financial crimes. She had no idea she'd picked a fight with someone who'd spent 8 years destroying people exactly like her. Thursday night would bring federal justice to suburban fraud. This woman was about to learn what happens when you steal from engineers who know how to read financial statements and coordinate with federal law enforcement. Game over, Cordelia. Time to pay for every dollar you stole and every neighbor you terrorized. The breakthrough that would destroy Cordelia's life arrived in a simple manila envelope Tuesday morning. My Freedom of Information request had returned 73 pages of email correspondence between HOA officers and contractors. $45 well spent for what turn out to be a federal prosecutor's dream case. I spread the documents across my kitchen table with the same methodical precision I'd used analyzing million-dollar patent disputes. But nothing in my legal career had prepared me for the criminal conspiracy these emails revealed. Subject, Phase 3, Carolina Extraction, Timeline Concerns. Devin Blackstone to Cordelia, that engineer neighbor sniffing around financials. Maybe time to accelerate exit strategy. Her response chilled my blood. One final major score first. Fabricating sinkhole emergency Thursday board meeting. $18K. Immediate authorization needed. Devon, perfect. Standard 3070 split after emergency approval. They'd been manufacturing crises for over 2 years. Fake tree emergencies, phantom erosion control, imaginary drainage failures, all requiring immediate repairs from Devon's unlicensed Arizona company at 400% market rates. The money trail was elegantly criminal. HOA pays inflated emergency bills. Devon keeps 30% operational costs, transfers 70% back as consulting fees for services that never existed. But here's what elevated this from local embezzlement to federal crime. Every wire transfer between North Carolina and Arizona crossed interstate commerce lines. Each electronic payment triggered federal wire fraud statutes carrying 20-year maximum sentences. Total theft, over 30 months. $67,000 from 51 families, averaging $1,314 stolen per household. Every email represented separate conspiracy, wire fraud, and mail fraud counts that would make federal prosecutors fight over prosecution rights. Then I found the message that guaranteed they'd both die in federal prison. Devon's final email. Sister, if that neighbor gets tea, close to our operation. Remember we discussed permanent solutions to persistent problems. The metallic taste of shock mixed with pure terror. They weren't just stealing money. They were discussing eliminating witnesses who threatened their criminal enterprise. I forwarded everything to Agent Haven with emergency priority. Her response came within 90 minutes. Garrett, this just became organized crime investigation, coordinating with Charlotte RICO Task Force for immediate federal action. That threat puts you in witness protection territory. The legal avalanche was stunning. RICO charges for continuing criminal enterprise, conspiracy to commit violence, asset forfeit to seize homes, cars, accounts for victim restitution. Federal sentencing guidelines showed minimum 15 years for this level of documented fraud. Our HOA insurance included $150,000 fidelity coverage for officer embezzlement. Combined with asset seizure, families could recover 100% of stolen funds plus legal costs without additional assessments. But timing was everything. Thursday's board meeting represented their planned final heist. $18,000 for fabricated sinkhole repairs before disappearing across state lines. If they succeeded and fled, tracking interstate fugitives would take months. Agent Haven coordinated arrest timing with local law enforcement. We position outside during board presentations. When they propose fraudulent emergency spending, federal agents execute simultaneous warrants. The beautiful irony overwhelmed me. Cordelia's 6-month harassment campaign had led directly to discovering federal crimes that would destroy both conspirators. Her desperate attempts to intimidate me into silence had created the investigation that would send her to federal prison for decades. Wednesday night, I prepared community notification emails and evidence summaries for Thursday's aftermath. 50 families deserved to understand how their trusted treasurer had systematically robbed them while terrorizing anyone who asked uncomfortable questions. The taste of approaching justice mixed with vindication as Thursday loomed. In 18 hours, federal agents would arrest the suburban dictator who'd made the catastrophic mistake of threatening someone with the legal expertise to coordinate organized crime prosecutions. Cordelia thought HOA authority made her untouchable. Tomorrow she'd learn what federal racketeering charges do to interstate criminal conspirators. Game over. Wednesday evening, my home office transformed into something between a war room and a federal prosecutor's dream case headquarters. 2 monitors glowed with financial spreadsheets showing money trails that would destroy lives. Industrial printer churning out evidence packages, while my document scanner processed email chains worth 20-year prison sentences. The room wrire of fresh ink cartridges and approaching justice. Agent Haven arrived at 8 p.m., carrying federal arrest protocols and 15 years of financial crimes expertise. She examined my evidence compilation like a master chef, reviewing ingredients for the perfect meal. Garrett, this is prosecutorial gold. Wire fraud, RICO conspiracy, witness intimidation with video documentation. I could teach federal crime seminars using your case. She spread sentencing guidelines across my coffee table with obvious satisfaction. Wire fraud alone, 20-year maximum. RICO enterprise CH. Arges, another 20. Conspiracy with threats of violence, potential life sentences. Devon's looking at 15 minimum even with full cooperation. Cordelia faces 25 to life as criminal enterprise leader. The metallic taste of vindication mixed with disbelief. 6 months ago, I'd bought this house, seeking peaceful suburban retirement. Now I was coordinating federal raids against organized criminals who'd been systematically looting my neighborhood while terrorizing anyone who asked inconvenient questions. Military precision planning commenced immediately. Haven coordinated with Charlotte Field Office, Sheriff's Department, IRS criminal investigations. Thursday's board meeting would feature more federal agents than most drug busts. Surveillance teams position outside at 6:30, Haven explained over building schematics. When Cordelia presents her fabricated $18,000 sinkhole emergency, we execute simultaneous warrants across state lines. My patent law background proved invaluable for federal evidence requirements. Chain of custody documentation, digital authentication certificates, witness statement notarizations, everything organized to prosecutorial perfection. But the sweetest preparation involved calculating exact victim restitution. HOA Insurance confirmed $150,000 fidelity coverage activating upon conviction. Asset forfeit specialists estimated $200,000 plus recovery from seized properties and accounts. Total projection 98% stolen funds returned, plus legal costs covered. The community support documentation arrived throughout evening. Dr. Martinez delivered 18 written statements about Cordelia's harassment campaigns designed to prevent financial oversight. Each family's story, STR, lengthened federal conspiracy charges exponentially. She terrorized half our street to hide embezzlement, Martinez said while notarizing witness affidavit. Wrong neighborhood to pick. Too many professionals who understand documentation. Romesh brought security footage compilation showing harassment timeline perfectly correlating with my investigation progress. Every threatening behavior, every intimidation attempt, every privacy violation captured in high-defin evidence. This woman thought engineers don't fight back. He laughed while organizing video files. She picked the wrong technical professional to intimidate. Evening coordination included media strategy with reporter Sandra Kim, who'd covered municipal corruption extensively. Statewide attention to suburban fraud would influence legislation requiring enhanced HOA financial oversight. Federal prosecution sends powerful message about consequences for residential financial crime, Sandra noted while reviewing press materials. This case will protect communities across North Carolina. The most personally satisfying preparation involved creating restitution spreadsheets showing each family's stolen money with projected recovery timeline. Justice measured in precise dollars returned to victims who'd trusted their treasurer. Agent Haven reviewed final warrant documentation while confirming Phoenix coordination. Tomorrow, 7:15 p.m., when Cordelia requests emergency approval for fake repairs, we arrest both conspirators simultaneously. Devin gets handcuffed in Arizona at identical timing. Beautiful federal synchronization. While Cordelia presented fraudulent proposals in our community center, FBI agents would arrest her brother. 2,000 meters away. No escape routes, no conspirator communication, no evidence destruction opportunities. Garrett, you've delivered the kind of case that defines prosecutorial careers. Financial fraud with perfect documentation, witness intimidation with video proof, interstate conspiracy with email evidence. Defense lawyers will beg for plea agreements. Late evening brought final community notification preparation. 50 families deserved complete transparency about how their trusted treasurer had systematically robbed them while using terror tactics to prevent discovery. I printed personalized restitution calculations for each household, showing exactly how much Cordelia had stolen from their children's college funds and retirement savings. Numbers that would make tomorrow's arrests feel like personal justice delivered. The smell of laser printer toner mixed with anticipation as Thursday approached. In 10 hours, federal agents would arrest the suburban criminal enterprise that had catastrophically underestimated an engineer with legal expertise and federal law enforcement connections. Cordelia thought HOA authority combined with harassment campaigns made her untouchable. Tomorrow evening, she'd learn what happens when wire fraud conspirators threaten federal witnesses. My coffee mug sat empty beside evidence binders that would send 2 people to prison for decades. The taste of approaching victory replacing exhaustion as I reviewed final preparations. Perfect justice was 12 hours away. Cordelia had called the cops on me for parking legally in my own driveway. By tomorrow night, federal agents would arrest her for crimes that would cost her freedom for the rest of her life. The irony was absolutely beautiful. Thursday morning, Cordelia's world started collapsing in spectacular fashion. 6:15 a.m. brought the acrid smell of burning paper drifting through my bedroom window. I looked outside to see Cordelia frantically feeding documents into her backyard fire pit, violating county drought fire restrictions while desperately destroying evidence. 20 years of patent litigation had taught me to recognize document destruction panic. This woman knew federal arrests were hours away and was eliminating financial records in broad daylight. Neighbors called the fire department within minutes. Watching firefighters confiscate her partially burned HOA financial documents while she screamed about property rights was beautiful karma in action. Federal obstruction charges just got added to her growing criminal resume. 2 hours later brought her most personal attack yet. Fresh graffiti across my garage door in dripping red paint. Federal snitch. Get out. The chemical sting of wet spray paint mixed with morning dew and my growing satisfaction. Security footage captured Cordelia in dark hoodie at 4:23 a.m., vandalizing property while federal agents prepared her arrest warrants. But her real desperation showed when I discovered unauthorized cameras aimed at my house. Not just property line surveillance. These recorded directly through my windows into private living spaces, violating every residential privacy law in North Carolina. When Sergeant Rodriguez arrived, he looked like a man questioning his life choices. "Ma'am, you cannot record inside neighbor's home without consent. This is criminal voyeurism. I need protection from his harassment," Cordelia shrieked, pointing G at me, standing peacefully in my own driveway. "Sir, you've been bothering this woman?" "Sergeant, I filed municipal complaints about documented financial fraud. That's civic responsibility, not harassment. Rodriguez examined my evidence folder, then stared at her illegal cameras with obvious exhaustion. Remove these immediately or face additional criminal charges. The mini twist came that afternoon when my home security system detected actual breaking and entering. 2:47 p.m. forced entry attempt at back door. Cameras captured Cordelia with what appeared to be professional lockpicks trying to break into my house on the very day of her planned federal arrest. My heart hammered against my ribs as I watched footage of this woman attempting to enter my home. 6 failed lockpicking attempts before motion lights sent her fleeing like a suburban cat burglar caught in the act. Smart lock technology recorded every attempted entry. Breaking and entering charges would now accompany her federal fraud prosecution. But watching her lose her mind publicly became the day's entertainment. Anonymous social media rants about dangerous federal informants targeting innocent Americans backfired when neighbors recognized her distinctive writing style and forwarded screenshots to law enforcement. Agent Haven's afternoon update confirmed Devin was having parallel meltdowns in Phoenix. Arizona surveillance captured him withdrawing cash from multiple banks, booking one-way flights to countries without extradition treaties, calling Cordelia every 30 minutes with increasingly panicked conversations. Both conspirators exhibiting textbook pre-arrest consciousness of guilt. Haven reported they know federal justice is coming tonight. 4 p.m. brought Cordelia's final desperate gambit. A sidewalk press conference claiming federal persecution by dangerous neighbors with government connections. 3 local reporters expected municipal corruption story. Instead, they witnessed complete psychological breakdown as she rambled about elaborate conspiracies involving federal surveillance, neighborhood infiltration, and immigrant engineers plotting suburban takeovers. The acrid smell of chain-smoking cigarettes mixed with her expensive perfume as paranoid theories poured out like confession testimony. Reporter Sandra Kim asked the obvious question. Mrs. Blackstone, how do you explain the financial discrepancies in HOA accounts? Those records are planted evidence. The federal government targets patriots who protect American neighborhoods from infiltration. Video of that meltdown would become prosecution exhibit demonstrating criminal mental state during conspiracy operations. Evening brought final federal coordination as agents positioned around our community center. Haven confirmed Phoenix arrest teams synchronized for identical timing. Local sheriff coordinated perimeter security for resident protection. Garrett, this woman spent the day destroying evidence, committing additional crimes, and documenting her own guilt through increasingly desperate behavior, Haven observed while reviewing arrest protocols. Are you ready to watch federal justice served? The metallic taste of vindication mixed with genuine relief. 6 months of harassment, intimidation, and threats were ending tonight with handcuffs and federal charges. Cordelia had escalated from minor HOA harassment to breaking and entering document destruction and criminal conspiracy. Her desperate attempts to silence me had created evidence trail guaranteeing decades in federal prison. 7 p.m. approached like an execution countdown. Federal agents positioned, arrest warrants signed, evidence packages organized for immediate prosecution. Tonight, the suburban dictator who terrorized our neighborhood while stealing from 50 families would discover what happens when financial criminals threaten federal witnesses with the expertise to coordinate organized crime prosecutions. Justice was 45 minutes away, and Cordelia had no idea her criminal empire was about to collapse in front of 60 witnesses and national media coverage. The irony was absolutely perfect. Evening descended on Meadowbrook Commons like the calm before a perfectly orchestrated storm. 6:30 p.m. federal agents positioned in unmarked vehicles around our community center, while Cordelia made final preparations for what she believed would be her greatest theft. She had no idea tonight would become her federal arrest on live television. Agent Haven checked in from her surveillance position. Target approaching community center with large portfolio and confident demeanor. She genuinely believes tonight's fabricated emergency will net $18,000 before disappearing. Meanwhile, I was coordinating final evidence distribution for post-arrest community notification. 50 families deserve complete transparency about how their trusted treasurer had systematically robbed them while using terror tactics to prevent discovery. The taste of approaching vindication mixed with nervous energy as residents began arriving for what would become the most dramatic HOA meeting in state history. Wilhelmina approached my car window with obvious concern. "Garrett, honey, there are strange vehicles everywhere. FBI agents." "Justice, Wilhelmina. Tonight we get our money back and our peace restored." Dr. Martinez arrived with his entire family, having convinced neighbors to attend for historic community importance. Romesh brought security footage compilation on USB drives for immediate media distribution. The community was mobilizing to witness Cordelia's downfall. 6:45 p.m. brought unexpected drama when Devin Blackstone's flight was detained at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. Agent Haven confirmed Arizona FBI had intercepted him attempting to flee to Mexico with $47,000 cash and forged identification documents. Phoenix arrest happening simultaneously with our operation. Haven reported no escape routes remaining for either conspirator. But the real shock came when Cordelia arrived in a rented Mercedes, having apparently sold her repossessed BMW for cash. She strutted toward the community center, wearing expensive new jewelry and designer clothes, purchased with stolen HOA funds. The woman was flaunting theft proceeds at her own arrest. Inside, community center buzzed with record attendance. 67 residents packed every available seat, while local media set up cameras for what Sandra Kim had promoted as major HOA financial scandal breaking tonight. Board President Robert Chang called the emergency session to order with obvious nervousness. "We're here to address urgent financial matters requiring immediate community attention." Cordelia stood confidently with her leather portfolio, completely unaware that federal agents were positioned outside with arrest warrants. Her opening remarks would become evidence in criminal conspiracy prosecution. "Fellow residents, we face catastrophic infrastructure emergency requiring immediate action to protect our property values and community safety." She clicked through fabricated PowerPoint slides showing imaginary sinkhole damage threatening neighborhood foundations. Professional geological survey photos completely fake. Engineering assessments from non-existent companies. Emergency repair estimates totaling exactly $18,000. This crisis demands immediate board authorization for Blackstone Services emergency geological stabilization before property damage becomes catastrophic. The room buzzed with concerned whispers as residents examined her fraudulent documentation. She was requesting their approval to steal $18,000 using fabricated evidence while federal agents waited outside with handcuffs. But board member Patricia Rodriguez asked the question that triggered everything. "Mrs. Blackstone, could you provide the original geological survey showing this sinkhole development? The photos appear to be from different geographic regions." Cordelia's confident mask slipped momentarily. "These are certified professional assessments requiring immediate action. We cannot delay emergency repairs for bureaucratic review, but the timestamp on this photo shows it was taken in Arizona, not North Carolina." The room went completely silent as residents realized they were witnessing attempted fraud in real time. Cordelia was presenting stolen images from other states as local emergency evidence. Agent Haven's voice crackled through my earpiece. "That's our cue. Moving in now. 7:15 p.m. exactly, community center due." Doors opened as federal agents entered with arrest warrants. Agent Haven approached the front table where Cordelia stood, frozen in complete shock. "Cordelia Blackstone, you're under arrest for federal wire fraud, conspiracy, embezzlement, and racketeering charges. The rumor erupted as residents realized their HOA treasurer was being arrested by federal agents during her attempted final theft. Cameras captured every moment as handcuffs clicked around wrists that had signed fraudulent checks for 2 years. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in federal court. Cordelia's face cycled through confusion, denial, rage, and finally terror. As federal charges were read aloud, her fabricated emergency presentation remained projected behind her, evidence of attempted fraud witnessed by 67 residents and recorded by multiple cameras. This is persecution. I've done nothing wrong. That man orchestrated this entire setup. Agent Haven's response was professionally devastating. Ma'am, we have 18 months of documented evidence, including email coordination with your brother, for systematic embezzlement. Your attempted fraud tonight was just the final count. As federal agents escorted Cordelia toward the exit, I stood to address my traumatized community. Neighbors, tonight begins your financial recovery and our community healing. The taste of perfect justice, mixed with relief as handcuffed Cordelia disappeared into federal custody, ending 6 months of harassment and 2 years of systematic theft. Federal agents had arrested the suburban criminal who'd made the catastrophic mistake of terrorizing someone with the legal expertise to coordinate, organize. Crime prosecutions. The community center had never been this electric. 67 residents packed into folding chairs, local news cameras positioned strategically, federal agents disguised as maintenance workers stationed near exits. The air practically vibrated with anticipation and the sweet scent of approaching justice. Board President Robert Chang called the meeting to order at exactly 7:15 p.m., his voice betraying nervous energy. We're addressing urgent infrastructure emergency requiring immediate community response. Cordelia stood with theatrical confidence, completely oblivious that federal agents with arrest warrants surrounded the building. Her leather portfolio contained fabricated evidence for stealing $18,000 from neighbors she'd terrorized for months. Fellow residents, she began with practiced authority. We face catastrophic geological emergency threatening our entire community foundation. Her PowerPoint presentation was criminal fraud in real time. Fake geological surveys, stolen photographs from Arizona websites, fabricated engineering reports from companies that didn't exist. Professional quality deception, demanding immediate $18,000 authorization for emergency repairs that would never happen. Blackstone Services has provided emergency assessment requiring immediate board approval before property damage becomes irreversible. The room buzzed as residents examined her fraudulent documentation. She was literally requesting permission to steal their money using fabricated evidence while federal agents waited outside with handcuffs. But board member Patricia Rodriguez asked the question that triggered everything. Mrs. Blackstone, this geological photo appears to show Arizona desert landscape, not North Carolina soil composition. Could you explain the geographic discrepancy? Cordelia's confident mask cracked. These are certified assessments requiring immediate action. We cannot delay emergency repairs for bureaucratic questioning. The metadata shows this image was downloaded from Arizona Department of Transportation website yesterday. Complete silence as 67 residents realized they were witnessing attempted fraud with fabricated evidence. Cordelia was stealing photographs from other states to justify robbing their community funds. That's when Agent Haven entered with federal arrest team. Cordelia Blackstone, you're under arrest for federal wire fraud, conspiracy, embezzlement, and racketeering. The room exploded, residents shouting, cameras recording, federal agents moving with professional precision as handcuffs clicked around wrists that had signed fraudulent contracts for 24 months. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in federal court proceedings. Cordelia's face transformed through confusion, denial, rage, and pure terror as federal charges were read aloud. Her fabricated presentation remained projected behind her, evidence of attempted theft witnessed by the entire community. This is federal persecution. I've committed no crimes. That engineer orchestrated this entire conspiracy. Agent Haven's response was devastatingly professional. Ma'am, we have documented evidence spanning 18 months, including email coordination with your brother for systematic embezzlement. Tonight's attempted fraud represents final criminal count. But the moment that defined perfect justice came as federal agents E.S. handcuffed Cordelia toward the exit. She looked directly at me with pure hatred and screamed, "You destroyed my life. People like you don't belong in communities like this." I stood up, approached the microphone, and delivered the line I'd been preparing for 6 months. "Ma'am, you were right about one thing. People like you, federal criminals who steal from families and threaten witnesses, don't belong in any community. That's why you're going to federal prison." The room erupted in thunderous applause as residents realized their systematic tormentor was being arrested for crimes that would end her freedom permanently. Federal agents continued reading charges as they escorted Cordelia outside. Wire fraud across state lines, conspiracy to commit racketeering, embezzlement of community funds, obstruction of justice, witness intimidation. Through community center windows, we watched her placed into federal vehicle, while Agent Haven addressed assembled residents. "Citizens, this investigation recovered evidence of $67,000 theft from your community over 30 months. Federal asset seizure and insurance claims will recover approximately 98% of stolen funds within 60 days. Dr. Martinez stood up with tears in his eyes. "Agent Haven, how long will she serve in federal prison?" "Sir, federal sentencing guidelines for this level of documented financial fraud typically result in 15 to 25-year sentences. With racketeering enhancements, she'll likely die in federal custody." The taste of absolute vindication mixed with community relief as neighbors embraced finally free from financial predator who terrorized them while stealing their children's college funds. Reporter Sandra Kim captured EV. Everything for statewide broadcast. This federal arrest represents largest HOA fraud prosecution in North Carolina history, affecting property values and community trust across suburban developments. As federal vehicle disappeared with Cordelia in handcuffs, I addressed my liberated neighbors. Tonight begins our community healing and financial recovery. Justice served perfectly. 6 months ago, this woman called police on me for parking legally. Tonight, federal agents arrested her for crimes guaranteeing decades in prison. The irony was absolutely beautiful. 60 days after federal arrests, our community had transformed from crime scene to healing sanctuary. Cordelia pleaded guilty to avoid trial, receiving 22 years in federal prison without possibility of parole. Devon received 15 years after full cooperation with prosecutors. Federal asset seizure recovered $89,000 from their properties, vehicles, and hidden accounts. Combined with insurance payouts, every stolen dollar returned to families with additional damages for legal costs. Our monthly HOA fees dropped 30% due to recovered funds and elimination of fraudulent expenses. But the real victory was community healing. The morning after arrests, I walked outside to find my driveway decorated with thank you cards from grateful neighbors. Children's drawings showing federal agents arresting the mean lady. Homemade cookies from Wilhelmina with notes reading, "Thank you for saving our neighborhood." The smell of fresh-baked gratitude mixed with morning coffee and complete satisfaction. 3 months later, I was unanimously elected HOA treasurer, with mandate for complete financial transparency. Monthly budget meetings now attract 30+ residents eager to understand community finances. We implemented quarterly independent audits and public financial reporting that becomes model for municipalities statewide. Our neighborhood became case study for preventing residential fraud. The Meadowbrook Community Recovery Fund, established using federal penalty money, provides financial literacy workshops and legal assistance for residents facing housing disputes. Retired FBI agent Jefferson Clark volunteers as security consultant, helping other communities identify potential fraud. Dr. Martinez organized monthly potlucks that bring neighbors together for social connection rather than crisis management. Children play freely without fear of citation harassment. Property values increased 18% due to enhanced community reputation and financial stability. The annual Meadowbrook Justice Festival, held each spring, celebrates community members who protect neighbors from financial predators. First recipient, Wilhelmina Crenshaw, for courage in supporting investigation despite intimidation. But my favorite transformation involves the empty lot where Cordelia's house once stood. Federal asset forfeit, sold the property to Community Land Trust. We converted it into memorial garden celebrating integrity and mutual protection. Plaque inscription reads, "In memory of trust restored through neighbor protecting neighbor." Children play where corruption once lived. 6 months after federal prison sentencing, I received unexpected certified mail from correctional facility. Handwritten letter from Cordelia acknowledging wrongdoing and expressing genuine remorse for theft and harassment. "Mr. Wolfson, you did what someone should have done years ago. Held me accountable for actions that hurt innocent families. Federal prison is teaching me consequences I never faced before. Personal satisfaction mixed with sympathy for someone whose greed destroyed everything. My consulting practice now helps communities across 3 states investigate suspected HOA fraud. The Cordelia Blackstone case provides template for residents protecting themselves through legal documentation and federal coordination. Legal victory became professional purpose. Sandra Kim's investigative reporting earned state journalism awards and influenced legislation requiring enhanced HOA financial oversight. Other communities use our transparency model for preventing residential fraud before families suffer financial damage. Personal life blossomed beyond legal victory. Sandra and I began dating after shared experience documenting community protection story. Our relationship, built on mutual respect for truth and justice, creates foundations stronger than romance alone. Love grew from shared commitment to protecting neighbors. Most importantly, Meadowbrook Commons evolved from crime scene to sanctuary, where families thrive without fear of financial predators or harassment campaigns. Children attend schools funded by recovered stolen money. Seniors enjoy retirement security without additional fraudulent assessments. Community healing proves that individual courage becomes collective protection when neighbors unite against financial criminals who abuse positions of trust. The taste of morning coffee now mixes with satisfaction rather than rage. My driveway remains exactly where it always belonged, 12 in into public easement. Completely legal, perfectly positioned. Where federal criminal once called police for legal parking, grateful neighbors now wave and smile during morning routines. Perfect irony delivered through federal justice. Your turn to protect your community. First call to action. Share your HOA nightmare stories in comments below. Document everything because other neighbors need your courage to expose financial fraud before families suffer. Second call to action. Subscribe for more justice stories where federal law defeats suburban criminals who think positions of authority make them untouchable. Next week, how one grandmother's smartphone investigation exposed $400,000 contractor fraud and sent 5 criminals to state prison using nothing but public records and small-town determination. Justice always wins when good neighbors protect good neighbors from those who would exploit community trust for criminal profit.